Hey guys, what's up? Welcome, as always, to TSP TV. I am your host, the Thrift Store Prepper, or you can call me T for short if you like. And thanks for tuning in to today's episode, which will be another video in the series of the Project Bluebeam, and is the COVID-19 little more than a big smokescreen and cover up as the elites finally put the pieces in place on Earth and above in the skies around the globe. The final pieces needed to implement their Project Bluebeam, the staged holographic psychological operation force flag event that would be either a religious UFO or asteroid-based event. And in recent weeks and months since the COVID-19 pandemic has enslaved and entrapped the world, there has been a string and series of events in the skies above Earth, and not to mention some declassification of UFO reportings and reports by major government agencies. The Pentagon, the Ministry of Defense in the United Kingdom are two of which have in recent times declassified UFO information that was once top secret and classified and for certain eyes only. But anyway, in recent weeks we have been seeing some more little UFO sightings in and around the world, as well as some asteroid and comet sightings. So Project Bluebeam, the holographic technology that could potentially be used to carry out such a psychological operation force flag event, does exist. And if you have been following this Blue Beam series, you should be possibly a little bit aware of this technology. So we won't go into the grounds of repeating and going over that again. I will put maybe links to the description, although if you are a truther and a researcher, you should be able to navigate my channel and search bar on your own and find those videos to bring you up to date. But we will be looking at a couple of articles and stuff momentarily in regard and relation to the possibilities, maybe even the probability that they are getting ready to stage this false flag event that would come from out of this world. And by out of this world, I mean kind of an extraterrestrial or asteroid threat. So without further ado, let's leave the thrift store studio and go and dive into the internet and look at some of those articles that I am referring to, and maybe they will make more sense as we go along. Okay, so before we do go and look in at the more recent articles and developments that could suggest possibly Project Bluebeam is in its practice stage of conducting a few dummy runs and testing out the system, make sure it works correctly, let's just refresh ourselves a little bit about the sort of purpose, intent, and origins of Project Bluebeam. In this little article, www.detailshere.com has this little article, and I actually think this is from a few years back. Forgive me, I forget what year this actually was published. But anyway, Project Bluebeam is the op to set the let me start that again. I can't read. I got a little bit of squint. Maybe I should get my reading glasses. That might help me. It did help me, my goodness. Okay, so Project Bluebeam is the op to set the snare to take your mind, thus also your soul, as you give it up willfully over to the Antichrist and forsake eternal life with Elohim. Elham, I don't know if I'm saying that right, but again, that is kind of designed for those of a religious belief and mindset. But it is also used as a war in the battle over the mind. Once they get the game is over and they win. Survival of any war is more mental and spiritual than anything else. You may flee into the wilderness, but you must have a tough mind and spirit to combat the wars and high-tech equipment that will be used daily even in the wilderness. You have been granted time now, so count your blessings, educate yourself, and begin preparing now. Maybe you might want to check out some of my Sensi prepping, micro prepping videos, or maybe how to build a micro pantry of your own playlist if you haven't already started to prep. Maybe that would be a good starting point. Never hurts to be prepared and have some food insurance and some basic survival items on hand for any eventuality, not just necessary psychological operations of a global scale that may or may not involve holographic technology, along with a whole host of other technology and draconian measures in order to carry that out. It might just be something like being out of work, or being sick or ill for a while that might need you to fall upon your emergency preps, or you might even find yourself in a global hoax pandemic for a virus with a 99% survival rate. But anyway, back to Bluebeam. The operation is easy to explain, and this is the real part of what I wanted to share this article before we do go any further. And as I said, it is a little bit of a sort of refresher, as well as maybe highlighting a couple of things that I want to highlight that may be going on in real time as we speak. So anyway, the operation is very easy to explain and reveal technologically. Holography, a technique for obtaining three-dimensional images, involves an interface pattern between two sets of single wavelength light waves. A single laser beam is split into two parts, one to illuminate the object, the second part, called the reference beam, is reflected by a mirror. The two beams meet, forming an interface pattern which is developed to form a hologram. This hologram can be used to recreate a three-dimensional image of the original object, according to a comprehensive report by Canadian investigative journalist Serge Monast, however you said that, entitled Project Bluebeam. This holographic technology used in conjunction with a high-tech mind control weapons, and the mind control weapons are what we're going to get to in a second, utilizing the effects of radio frequency waves upon the brain, is capable of projecting an image in the sky and causing a collective thought to convince people they are seeing an alien invasion or the second coming of Christ. The Bluebeam project will pretend to be the universal fulfillment of the prophecies of old. In principle, it will make use of the sky as a movie screen, space-based laser generating satellites project simultaneous images to every part of the planet. And again, this is stuff that we have looked into in previous videos regarding the Project Bluebeam COVID cover-up. So again, go back, watch those videos, refresh yourself. Plenty of information there that will show you some of this technology that is available at a military and civilian level. You can even download apps that will help you create 3D imagery via your phone. But anyway, where were we? They are going to project these images simultaneously around the planet in every language, in every dialect, according to religion, and using an alien example of an invasion would possibly disrupt most people's religious beliefs, because many religions do not acknowledge the existence of extraterrestrial life, therefore kind of rendering those kind of religions possibly meaningless. But as I said, that is not something I'm here to suggest or promote. That is just part of what this operation is being used to do, to deceive and manipulate the minds into believing things that are not real, are actually going on in real time above their heads. No area will be excluded, with computer animation and sound effects appearing to come from the depths of space. Astonished followers of the various creeds will witness their own returned Messiah in spectacular, convincing, lifelike realness. Or they might indeed witness lifelike alien craft, or maybe lifelike asteroid or comet projections. And some of these 3D holographic projections are in fact solid. You can make solid 3D projections these days. The various saviors will then merge into one after correct explanations of the mysteries, prophecies, and revelations will have been disclosed. This event will occur at a time of great political and general tumult, which kind of right now we have a lot of political unrest, we have a lot of civil unrest, we have a lot of general trauma and, psychological operations going on, panic crisis. We are in some kind of an apocalypse, although not the cool kind of science fiction movie depicted apocalypses like Mad Max or The Walking Dead, but we are nonetheless in an apocalypse of sorts under the COVID-19 pandemic emergency procedures guidelines. But anyway, what better time to add further chaos to the mix than when there is already global chaos going on? And the purpose behind this Project Bluebeam is to gain order from chaos and maybe implement a one world order to take care of us all. And remember, this is how they kind of entrap us, by pretending they want to keep us safe, just like the masks and the quarantine and the self-isolation is been bred into our minds as part of a way to keep us safe, when really it is the extermination of independent businesses, as we see a governmental takeover and socialistic behavioral patterns being enforced and implanted into daily society. But back to Bluebeam. This was developed by NASA scientists, and it consists of 4 parts, 4 steps towards the implementation of the NWO religion, and that's what the New World Order wants: a singular currency, a singular religion, a single gender, a single government, yada yada, all about one. And maybe if you kind of think about it, where we go one, we go all, might be the motto for a one world order. Something to think about. I'm not telling you what to believe at all, but to me that does seem a little bit like a one world order mantra. And maybe, once you've taken down all these pedophiles and corrupt government officials and Hollywood elites that like to eat babies and have sex with underage children, maybe in order to keep us safe, we might just need a one world order where we go one kind of thing. You see what I'm saying there? But anyway, just some food for thought, not telling you what to think or believe. That is entirely up to you. If you have independent thoughts and can calculate your own minds and opinions, that is fantastic. We do encourage free thinking and independent thoughts and individuality at the thrift store. But anyway, they do want a one religion and a one world order, and they do want to remove other organized religions and businesses and any sort of things that might contradict their singular narrative for this dystopian one world order future. But the first thing that they would be doing is creating earthquakes at certain precise locations. Now, we've had some very sort of freak weather conditions. Just the other day here in Toronto, we had a tornado, and one might be able to kind of suggest or theorize that possibly there is some kind of geoengineering or weather modification or weaponized weather technology being used in order to conduct this. And it isn't really hard to create an earthquake with seismic charges down in on kind of those fault lines and things. If you put them underground at a certain point, you could create an earthquake. So they're talking about lots of earthquakes. We've heard that, and some people might even suggest to you that that's just the underground bunkers that the elites keep their kids in that are being blown up by the Crusaders that are part of the QAnon phenomenon. But again, that's not what we're here to talk about today. But earthquakes and weather events are things that we are seeing in contemporary times that cannot be dismissed, and these are part of the first phase of Bluebeam. And what they will do is create new archaeological discoveries revealing that all religions' basic doctrines have been misunderstood and misinterpreted. Someone might suggest the ancient aliens there is. There's a TV show that is very popular and well known about the ancient aliens, and have they been here all along? And is this all part of the great manipulation and deception of the elites? As you know, entertainment is controlled pretty much primarily by the elites. They own everything and control everything, and everything is kind of intended for some kind of purpose towards social engineering and mind control and programming of society. But anyway, the second gigantic space show with laser projections of multiple three-dimensional and holographic images worldwide will appear to be the image of God speaking in all languages. And again, they might just use it to project alien UFO craft and images, or possibly asteroid or comet type things. And again, they're going to say they're going to project an image of God speaking in all language. Now, this is where it gets very interesting, certainly in contemporary times, and may explain some goings on a personal level that maybe some of you might also have been experiencing recently. But the third is electronic telepathy, and this really is what I believe 5G is for. I don't believe it is a microwave weapon that once it's all up and rigged up to the system, they're going to turn it on and fire us all. I believe it is part of this electronic telepathy, and they are emitting ELF, VLF, and LF waves that will be ordering the mind or controlling the minds of the populations that come in contact with these frequencies. But these are going to be broadcast and will reach people inside of their brains, interlacing and interweaving with the natural thinking of form diffused artificial thought, and making each one to believe that God is speaking to them from within their own souls. Now, again, this is the sort of basis of the Project Bluebeam itself, but again, these can be manipulated, changed, and adapted for many, many, many purposes. So, are they already using these ELF, VLF, and LF frequencies in contemporary times to maybe manipulate the minds of Karens, or maybe manipulate the minds of non-maskers over maskers, stuff like this? There's a lot of strange events going on. Maybe these frequencies are being used to manipulate minds into supporting movements like BLM or the Occupy movements or Antifa, things like this. Not saying it is, just suggesting that if this technology exists, then this would be something that it could be used for. But the supernatural manifestation designed to deceive will create the following illusion, and this is where it gets interesting. Make mankind believe an alien invasion is imminent, or in fact going on. Make Christians believe a rapture is imminent and the aliens have come to rescue them, and convince all that global satanic supernatural forces and manifestations penetrating worldwide, able to travel through optical fiber, coaxial cable, electric and phone lines are everywhere and inescapable. The obstacle is not the holography itself, but rather the ELF and the frequencies. And these are the frequencies that you're going to find it very, very difficult to avoid, because they are absolutely everywhere. And in recent times, I've kind of found it a little bit difficult to maybe focus or concentrate on things, or find much motivation to really want to do much. Now, that could be a little bit of the depression that's going on, and uncertainty and anxieties that are part of the sort of psyop that is COVID-19 pandemic. It could be to do with the weather. And something else I've been feeling recently is extremely fatigued, and like I want to sleep a lot. And I've also had a couple of viewers that have also said they have experienced similar things. But all this technology is around us. I'm using a device now that is controlled by 4G and Wi-Fi technology, and I'm not too far from a router. There are 4G and 5G towers around this city of Toronto I'm living in. We are being bombarded by frequencies and microwaves and all this kind of shit on a daily basis, especially if you live in a huge city like Toronto. Then it's going to be almost impossible to avoid these things. But the obstacle is trying to avoid them And this is where the psyop and the warfare is being staged in our mind, and are these, as I suggested, ELF's frequencies being used right now to control the masses and making some of us believe that this COVID is real, whereas making others believe it is a complete and utter hoax. As again, food for thought, just some suggestions for research of your own. But you may be seeing things that are truly there, but others won't be able to see, yet at the same time you could capture these powers of darkness on film. Though I do think that Bluebeam will be in conjunction with the actual inner and outer invasion of the fallen angels and demons of Revelation chapter 9. And the book of Revelations and the seven seals was something that my buddy, well, he's not my buddy, I didn't actually know him, but somebody I'm particularly interested in, David Koresh over at the Waco compound, the Branch Davidians, took down by the ATF, murdered for their beliefs and what they knew. He believed that he had decoded the book of Revelations and the seven seals into believing that Babylon was indeed the new world order, one world order takeover of humanity, and that is what they were kind of preparing themselves in living out in the compound down there in Waco for. They were trying to get away from society and off-grid as much as they could, although they weren't exactly off-grid and they weren't even a cult. But anyway, the book of Revelations is something of interest, even if you are religious or not. There's some interesting theology in there. But we can get into counteracting the ELF after a while. This is a lot of information here, and as I said, this is just a little bit of a brief refresher to bring you up to speed if you're not familiar with Bluebeam as to what it's got. And as I said, these ELF frequencies and low wave frequencies, are they at play at the moment, and are they already controlling and manipulating the minds of the masses? Electronic sorcery and Bluebeam technologies, tools of the fourth beast. Now, the fourth beast could also be the Fourth Reich, and actually kind of do and have suggested that the United Nations is in fact the unified Nazis, and they are the Fourth Reich waiting to happen, and they are of course the ones that are behind Agenda 2030, the sustainable development agenda that is little more than a depopulation campaign. But ELF is a tool of the elites and is the new age version of witchcraft, hence electronic sorcery. Basically, they direct an external low frequency ELF at the person or persons they choose for whatever reasoning they have, that the targeted person is a dissident. Now, maybe those of us who are non-maskers might be considered dissident, and maybe those who are maskers are the opposite of dissident. I can't think of the word now. But anyway, do you see what I'm saying? That these frequencies could well be at use right now, dividing and conquering humanity as we speak in real time. But the ELF will put the person into an ordered state. Many people might consider that they are in ordered states now, believing that the COVID is real and that they need to wear a mask and stay 6 feet away. This is an ordered state of mind, for sure, for sure. Prove me wrong in the comments below, folks, because we didn't think like this 12 months ago, and people have been ordered into believing that this is the way to live. But anyway, many times the person doesn't even realize it, and again, this is mind control. You don't realize you are under mind control, and you don't know you've been brainwashed, and that's why that mind control and brainwashing is extremely hard to break, because people unaware that they are in that state are almost unwilling to relinquish those thoughts, right? This is not an ordered state as in Hindi like meditations. Basically, the brain supply has no firewall to block frequencies, and this is where it gets very interesting, guys. Just as a computer cannot restrain a hacker from hacking into a computer without a firewall, this tool will be used in conjunction with Bluebeam technology, better known as Project Bluebeam, to be the voice of the so-called God. But again, they can use it for multiple purposes. They don't have to just use it to be the voice of God. They can use it to implement thought patterns of their desire into unwilling, unknowing subjects. But it shall be deceiving spirits, and that's what we're doing. We're being deceived, and they're using these frequencies to deceive us. And this is where it gets interesting again. The effects of ELF on a person can vary based on the length of being hit with the waves, frequency setting, or both. Some of the symptoms are as follows, yet will always be more than 2 symptoms per zap. As I was mentioning earlier, a slight to a complete loss of concentration, memory, and an overall blanking out for a few seconds to a few minutes. Dizziness. Drop dead in your tracks with fatigue in which you must sleep without an otherwise known cause. And this is something actually in the last week I have experienced. A couple of times I've been outside, maybe enjoying a smoke and a cup of coffee, and within minutes felt to myself, geez, I just need to go lie down and sleep. And something I do suffer with is insomnia. So sleep is something that doesn't always come very easily to me. So sleeping sort of more than regularly in sort of at times of the day where I don't normally sleep is welcome, but also a little bit strange. And find yourself sleeping from 12 to 20 hours a time, although I haven't reached those hours of length of sleep, but I have been sleeping a lot more than normal. Immediate wired effect, in which you feel as you are on major amounts of caffeine or even cocaine. That would be wishful thinking. That would be a nice little effect to be getting for free. But no, we shouldn't really encourage or condone such behavior. But as an example, it wouldn't be a bad thing to have that little bit of energy boost, should I say, pumped into us each day. You may stay awake for 22 to 48 hours with no sleep, all the while still feeling wired. Now, I had a couple of, as I said, mentioned insomnia, and have had a few nights out, where I've stayed over at the beach and stuff, not necessarily because I have been unable to stay awake, just, kind of caught up in the moment. But again, I have been up in recent weeks for like 30 plus hours in time. I'm always got a ringing in my ears, always got an ringing in the background, like you've kind of been to a concert or a nightclub and been too close to the speakers. That kind of never ever kind of leaves, to be honest. Order to taste metallic. Pressurized feeling within your head. Again, I've had a few migraines and headaches and stuff in recent weeks that have made me kind of just feel like I need to lie down in a darkened room. Images of light, as in aura from an image you just looked at. Beams of light may also be seen. This can happen anywhere. Voices inside your brain that are not your own or the Holy Spirit, yet is like the Holy Spirit. If you are the target and is used on you too often, it will become difficult to tell the difference. 10. Just knowing where to look to see a UFO. You look and sure enough one shows up. You may become paralyzed in bed while a voice commands you not to resist. And I actually did have a very strange experience that I did speak to my dear friend Al 1978 about off cam and privately, and not something I'm actually willing to talk about. But very bizarre experience, to say the least. And I had to speak to someone. She was the most perfect candidate to speak about that. Now 1978, if you are watching, you know exactly what I'm talking about there. But anyway, lucid dreaming, flashes of light. You may hear voices coming from your electronic equipment that shouldn't be there. And I've had a little bit of crackling, and I've had some interesting experiences with some technology and equipment that I did own that is since been defunct. And I'm talking about my phones. You may have high body heat, as in a hot flash that lingers on for hours. During this, you may have visions of phantoms, balls of light, demons, aliens, fallen angels, etc. Remember, not all such visitations are due to ELF, but can also be from the God, or the Bible states in Numbers 20:31, Kings 16:17, that the Lord opened the eyes of some people so that they could see into the spirit world. this was his will. On other hand, it may simply be due to involvement in the occult. Such spirits in that case will always be Luciferian in nature. Back to the symptoms, you may have involuntary out-of-body experiences, you may have rapid heartbeats, you may see in through closed eyelids, Kundalini experiences. Listing the effects is extremely low frequency weapons. Now, do you see why it is wise to investigate ELF before this nation slides any further into the abyss? And I really would recommend looking into some ELFs, and maybe we will do a video on ELFs and 5G in conjunction with 5G at some point. Let me know if you want to see that. Comments below, guys. I sure do hope so. When you put all of this together with Bluebeam technology, you get one ripened headache. Indeed you do. So holographic technology along with ELF frequencies and stuff, this could very well be used and could very, very well be at play in contemporary times, going on around us in real time. But the Bluebeam technology will be used to bring about the new world order, and further chaos within the chaos could possibly bring a one world order from chaos. You know how it goes, guys. The fourth beast, the Antichrist, yada yada, whoop de woo. However, many will believe Bluebeam is in fact the Antichrist or the Messiah. Don't be a fool. Bluebeam has existed for decades, has been used extensively in many areas, including the Gulf War, possibly even in 9/11. All the while it is being refined, and this is what we're saying now, that during this COVID-19 scam, pandemic, psyop, psychological warfare, false flag event, are they refining it? Are they finely tuning it? Are they getting ready to unleash Project Bluebeam in its entirety and implement the one world order? But anyway, you have time to prepare, or maybe we don't, but as I said, do what you can in order to be prepared, not just in terms of having, you know, stockpiles of food. Prepare your mind. This is where the new Homeland Defense setting up away with its new Nazi as its head won't be long. The camps or prison, as they're called, are being made ready now. Maybe this is kind of why they're releasing lots of prisoners or something. Who knows? Laws are being revised, revoked, and this is exactly what we are seeing under the pandemic guidelines and the emergency measures that are being taken place, and or emergency orders that now supersede regular governmental practices and constitutional rights and freedoms. These things no longer are effective, as they are, as I said, superseded by emergency laws. The United States government handed over to the Federal Emergency Management Agency, and here in Canada, or in Ontario, we are under the Pandemic Emergency Act, and we are seeing prisoners being released from prisons and jails who are close to end of their sentences or are low-level misdemeanors, non-violent victimless crimes. Those sort of people are being released in masses. The Nazi foxes will come looking for us and use their weaponry to gain a foothold. And are they using these weapons to gain a foothold as we speak? And silent weapons for silent wars. Well, we know the plans and symptoms of ELF, and as I said, we may well be experiencing symptoms of ELF ourselves. I kind of can experience similar side effects to the ones we just read that you may be experiencing yourself. So again, if you are experiencing any of those, let me know in the comments below. And also, William Mason, dear and faithful viewer and part of the Thrift Fam community, he actually served down in the Gulf War and has a lot of information regarding Bluebeam and how they used it during that occupation of Iraq back in the early 90s. But there are lots of websites, as it said, that have been shut down since 9/11. The battle is for the mind, and we are under a psychological warfare, and psychological warfares are not fought with bullets, bombs, guns, tanks, aircraft, and naval fleets. They are fought with psychological weapons. So anyway, after that little refresher, let's get in and look at a couple of articles of interest from recent times. Okie dokie, folks. So here we go with another little article that came out actually in June of this year. And as you can see, the title is Will the Deep State Launch a False Flag Alien Invasion After Exhausting Global Control Cards? So it's a nice little thumbnail there. Again, will the deep state launch false flag alien invasion after exhausting global control cards? So, as I said, come out in June of this year, but shortly before his death in 1977, Werner von Braun, a pioneer in both German and US rocket programs, warned that a group of global controllers, aka the Deep State, would systematically move through a series of false flag events or cards that would be played in a sequence designed to ultimately militarize space and usher in a new world order. I do like to remind you at this point of Space Force, the militarized wing of the United States government that was put into place very, very recently. In the last couple of years, I believe Space Force come into play. But anyway, von Braun gave his famous warning to Carol Rosin, who from 74 to 77 was a corporate manager at Fairchild Industries Incorporated, a major aerospace contractor that von Braun had joined 2 years earlier. Rosin says that von Braun asked her to be his spokesperson after being diagnosed with terminal cancer, and revealed an elaborate plan by the US military-industrial complex to weaponize space. In a recorded interview in December 2000 from the Disclosure Project, Rosin described the following sequence of false flag events von Braun explained to her back in the 1970s. Remember that, back in the 1970s. The strategy that von Braun taught her was that first, the Russians are going to be used as the enemy. In fact, in 74, they were the enemy, the commies, and many of you might be aware of those Cold War days where the Russians were to be feared at all cost. In movies in the 80s like Red Dawn and even Rocky IV portrayed the communist Iron Curtain as the all-seeing, all-conquering enemy that we needed to live in total fear of. And of course, there was the threat of nuclear devastation, as the Russians and the Americans both had their missiles pointed at each other. Very, very, very much part of the plot of The Watchmen by Alan Moore, a video I'm meaning to make, and did even start putting together a little while ago, but unfortunately lost that footage when my phone was destroyed. But maybe we will get back into doing a fiction decoded video on The Watchmen, because The Watchmen, indeed, the end game in that, the final chapter, sees a false flag staged alien invasion upon New York City, and as a result of this staged event, it does bring in a kind of one world order of sorts. But anyway, another video for another day. Back to the day. The Russians were the enemy back in the 70s, and then we were told that they had killer satellites. They were told they were coming to get us and control us. Then the communists would be replaced as the number one enemy, public enemy number one, by terrorists. And again, early 2000s, 2001, a Tuesday morning in September, you may be familiar with, terrorism and the war on terror began. We were afraid firstly of Al-Qaeda, and then ISIS replaced them once they allegedly SEAL Team 6 took out bin Laden in his little compound in Pakistan and then tossed his body in the sea. But We are then going to identify third world country crazes. We now call them nations of concern. Now, there's some involvement in Syria and places like that. If not, they are considered third world. I'm not suggesting they are, but maybe these are the nations of concern that they are referencing. And beyond that, the third enemy, nations of concern, but he said that would be the third enemy against whom we would build space-based missiles. I'm not sure if I understand that properly, but the next enemy was asteroids, and this is kind of where we get into contemporary times. We do have a comment, Neogize or something, Neowise. We'll get into that in a little while, but forgive me at this point of recording this article, I forgot what this comment is called, but he said asteroids would be the next enemy, and at this point, against asteroids, we are going to build space-based weapons. Maybe this is why they have brought into play Space Force in order to kind of protect us from these asteroids that maybe government agencies know about. They're on their way to Earth, that the general public and population is unaware of. Or again, maybe this is just seeding an implantation, the primary thought pattern in idealistic, or the ideology rather, that there is a threat from space, be it asteroid or UFO. And the funniest one of all was what he called aliens, extraterrestrials. That would be the final scare. And over during the 4 years that I knew him, this is the words of Carol, not myself, I never knew him. He was giving speeches. He would bring up the last card, and the last card is the alien card. We are going to have to build space-based weapons against aliens. Now, there are some videos here that are quite long, so I won't press play, but perhaps I will put this link in the description for you so you can come and check this out. There's a lot of interesting stuff in this article. Goes on to say that the room was filled with people in a revolving door game. There were people that were in military uniforms, sometimes grey suits and sometimes industrial outfits. These people play a revolving door game, and they work as consultants, industry people, and military and intelligence. They work in the industries, and they revolved themselves through these doors and right into government positions. Rosen's description of what was taking place in the boardroom of Fairchild Industry is very revealing about the company's key role within the military-industrial complex and how the deep state operates by manipulating global events to maintains media narratives, just like we're seeing now in the COVID scandemic. Global PSYOP. The sequence of contrived global events described by von Braun reflected how far forward in time the deep state projects its plans. Almost 50 years later, we see the sequences described by von Braun being played out in real time. Russian terrorism and rogue nations have collectively dominated decades of news cycles. More recently, we are witnessing an increasing number of stories of killer asteroids. And again, I did have some videos out last year on asteroid strikes that were heading our way. Asteroid sightings that had come, astrologers and stuff had seen on large telescopes that had entered the solar system. Sadly, some of those videos no longer exist due to survival practices and deleting content that YouTube may frown upon in order to keep this channel from being terminated. So more recent examples are 3 massive killer asteroids heading towards Earth and predicted to fly close by on June 6th, 8th and 20th, any which could cause cataclysmic enemy. And there's another video, space-time asteroids. Additional cards can be found, and by cards I mean plans, false flag events, can be found in the deep state playing deck described by von Braun in the 70s. This includes a global pandemic which was discussed in the City of London by a high-level group of bureaucrats in 2005, and that was around the time that the Canadian Pandemic Act was put into legislation as part of a deep state plan to usher in a new world order. So we are in a global pandemic currently, and is this the last card before the alien card is played? And this is kind of really and truly what this little series of video COVID cover-up Project Bluebeam is all about. Is this the cover screen, or is this indeed all part of the end game, so to speak, to bring in that one world order? Von Braun's warning alerts us to the threat of an alien invasion being used as the final card in a long sequence of contrived events that would justify the weaponization of space and establishment of a new world order desired by the deep state. Now there is a steady stream of new articles pointing the possibility of an alien invasion in a post-COVID world. The potential for such is an event coming into the run-up to the 2020 election. Now I'm going to bet any of you $1 out there that I don't think there is going to be an election. Something is going to happen, I believe, before that will mean the election will not take place. I may be wrong, but as I said, I'm going to bet $1 with anybody who wishes to take that bet with me. Although don't too many, because I don't have many dollars to give away if I do lose. But anyway, there was some rumors, as we see here, that back in 2016 they were going to put this planned Bluebeam project into practice to help Clinton win the 2016 election. So again, it didn't happen. So this could quite again be another piece of misinformation. But unlike that particular election, we weren't seeing the amount of articles in mainstream media about UFOs and asteroids as we are today, which again leads me to believe that there is a strong possibility and even a probability that this is what we are seeing happening. The paper reviewed some of the advanced holographic technologies that we could be using. Again, you can see some of these examples in the other videos in this Bluebeam series. Maybe binge watch the entire series in one hit and you should be quite clued up and maybe in the same mindset as myself into thinking that maybe this is exactly what the elites are conducting right now under the smokescreen of COVID-19. And it could be used for electoral purposes. As we approach November the 3rd, the U.S. presidential election could the alien invasion card be played, as warned back in the 70s by Von Braun? And did Van Braun have an entirely different purpose for telling Rosen about the alien invasion card being used by the military-industrial complex? Rather than heroically attempting to prevent the militarization of space, was Von Braun a double agent for an Antarctica-based breakaway German colony wanting to prevent the US military from ever threatening their secret space programs? There is a part 2 to this that, as I said, I will try to put the link in the description for you so you can follow those links yourself and research further. So anyway, let's dive over into the next article, which is very interesting to say the least. Okay, here we are with the next article. This is very interesting indeed. So, is Earth to face a doomsday scenario due to alien invasion? That's a very pretty cool picture. Look at the alien wading in is that the Hudson River? I'm not sure, correct me if that is incorrect, but that is Manhattan, and we can see the World Trade Center and UFO there. Could even possibly use that as a thumbnail, but that remains to be seen. So here we go. There's a burp for you. That one's for you, baby P. Excuse me, I did have a little drink during recording. So Earth to face a doomsday due to alien invasion if moldy national leadership is absent. If the Earth is invaded, now this came out May the 22nd, and it was by Nimrul Nariman. That's a weird name. But anyway, let's start once again. If the Earth is invaded by an advanced hostile extraterrestrial beings, Clifford Lazarus believes that we Earthlings will need to come together to prevail. And this could again be supporting the one world order, and something Ronald Reagan mentioned in a speech back in the 1980s was what would he considered what would happen if the world did face a threat from out of our borders, from outer space, and would we all come together and unite in order to combat this? But the back to this article, the clinical director of the Lazarus Institute wrote in Psychology Today, it is critically important that we find a way to create a coordinated global response to this mortal peril, because it will almost inevitably not be the final pandemic our world will face. Without rational, scientific, guided, and cooperative multinational leadership, ET will prevail and human civilization as we know it will be doomed. So again, is this a little bit of seeding to implement and bring in the one world order ideology, that we need a one world order in order to keep us safe and unified and protected from extraterrestrial threats, or possibly asteroid comet type strikes. Lazarus also says that an alien invasion is very similar to a pandemic outbreak. And again, is this COVID-19 pandemic a little social engineering exercise or dummy run drill into getting us how to behave or possibly exist after a planned alien invasion is left major cities devastated, or an asteroid strike is caused cataclysmic damage. But it's very similar to a pandemic where humans should unite as a single species, irrespective of various barriers. And this is kind of what they're trying to do, get us all on pages, the same page of social distancing and mask wearing. And this is why I suggest is this social engineering for what is to come once the alien stroke asteroid event false flag psychological operation happens. If ever there was a time for joining forces and pulling together as a nation, a global community, and single species, this is it. And this is why I suggest that this will be the final card, as we've already seen in the article above, and why I believe and others believe that maybe this is what is in the process is of being carried out. They are put into putting the pieces together for the final act, as we are fast tracking our way towards that one world order. COVID-19 does not recognize national borders or social boundaries, and this is what we needed, a singular unifying threat that we could all face together. And although there is still quite a lot of division on the COVID-19 and its authenticity, is it real, isn't it real, is it a hoax, is it a scammed pandemic, or are people really dying in their hundreds and thousands, even though it is stated on the CDC and on the WHO websites as having a 99+% survival rate, but that remains to be seen, although I'm in the mindset of thinking it is a hoax and kind of pretty much said so from the start. But just like the COVID-19 global pandemic that is a threat to everybody, so too would be a staged alien invasion. And what they're kind of suggesting in this article as that we need some kind of guidelines and protocols to combat this eventuality should it come to be. We don't want to be left blind in a little bit, kind of the prepared mind, and in having protocols and stuff in place ready to go is part of being prepped, I guess. Investigative journalist Leslie Kane recently suggested that an alien hypothesis could be the best option to explain UFO sightings. And again, something we've mentioned in all of these videos, and why we're doing this series of videos, and why we think that they are seeding the thought plannings of the alien agenda during this COVID-19 pandemic, is to get us to accept it a little bit more willingly should it happen in the not so distant future. The extremely advanced technology that the objects have displayed since the 50s demonstrate tremendous speed and acceleration, the ability to make sharp right-angle turns, stand still mid-air, zoom off and disappear in the blink of an eye, and operate underwater. They they appear to defy the laws of aviation as we know it, and something we mentioned in one of the recent live shows, at time of recording, that is, of course, is that the technology that is available on a commercial and to the general public is indeed like antiquated in terms to the technology that is available to the elites, and say it's like 50 years behind the capabilities of technology available to the elites would possibly be quite accurate, although we do think we are at the height of technology in contemporary times with our 5G and our Wi-Fi and our laptops and our cell phones and smart devices like refrigerators and TVs and microwaves. This is in that fact very, very dated to the technology available to the elites and the industrial military complex. But back in the 50s, as we were saying, they defy the laws of aviation. And is this, we're talking about how far in advance these planes are, that back in the 50s were these first UFO sightings part of the seeding towards what we are about to witness, kind of planting that generation to generation to generation. This is why we see so many UFO invasion movies each and every decade, from the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, right up to today. There hasn't been a decade that hasn't featured extraterrestrial or alien type content in the science fiction and horror genres. But anyway, the blink of an eye, they defy laws of aviation, and since they have no wings or visible means of propulsion, many believe that UFOs are authentic proof of alien existence, and their presence here on Earth is to monitor human activities. They are here, and they've been here for a very long time. Both the bad ETs who have returned to Earth to slave the planet using mind control over our leaders and the media, and the good ETs who watch our species from a distance, assisting us through our consciousness. And again, this is a belief pattern that you may or may not choose to buy into yourself. I'm just the messenger repeating this article. But this struggle has escalated since World War II, and as we aforementioned, the 50s was kind of around the time that we started seeing or hearing about UFO sightings, and it wasn't much long after this that the CIA or the FBI introduced Project Blue Book, which was a wing of and that government agency that did look into UFO sightings. So anyway, the bad ET agenda of domination, and maybe you could consider the elites is alien in their beliefs and behavioral patterns to that of the common man. So maybe descriptive or metaphoric purposes could be implemented there. We have now reached a culmination of cosmic struggle for planet Earth, and now shit, it is humanity against the elites. But the elites are doing all in their power to divide and conquer us with implementations of different and radical extreme ideologies, be it from Antifa to ISIS to veganism, to that over whether you should or shouldn't wear a mask to protect yourself from a virus with a 99% survival rate. But anyway, to awaken the ET reality and take control over our own sovereign future, or accept our species' fate as servants to an elite human class and their deep state henchmen doing the bidding of an evil extraterrestrial race. Again, whether you want to buy into the fact that extraterrestrials are controlling the elites or not is up to you. We are kind of just looking at the article that is suggesting that we do need some kind of protocols and guidelines in the eventuality that we should encounter an extraterrestrial force that invades Earth, be it peacefully or aggressively, and we would need a singular world organ of multicultural leaders in order to do this, right? Many space experts believe that humans are not alone in the universe, and they claim that advanced alien species might be living somewhere in the deep nooks of the universe. It's a little sign at the Lazarus Institute maybe you want to look into them yourselves, do a little bit more research. And again, I'm not going to put all the links in the description because, you know, you don't want to be spoon-fed your research. You want to do a little bit of research and dive in and dig in of your own. You don't want to be get lazy and have people doing all your thinking for you. You've got to be a little bit willing to do some diving and looking into things of your own, and this is what helps to form critical thoughts and opinions of your own. But they are searching for new life in the universe. There's lots of projects and telescopes and satellites and things out there looking for things, and they are possibilities they could find Earth, and we cannot rule out a possible invasion in the future. Again, is this whole article about seeding the ideology of the alien agenda? Will Earth face a doomsday due to an alien invasion? Clifford and Lazarus, the clinical director of the Lazarus Institute, believes that the Earth will be doomed if hostile aliens visit Earth. He also added that multi-natural leadership should prevail in the world if humanity wants to fight against the common enemy. And this is where we are talking of the one world order, that this would be a reason to implement a one world order, to maybe coordinate a national leadership against a hostile alien invasion army. It is critically important that we find a way to create a coordinated global response to this mortal peril. And again, to keep us safe from a mortal peril, it will be almost inevitable not to be the final pandemic of our world. And again, they're using the word pandemic there. We're under a pandemic conditions and guidelines right now. And would these be further fortified and reinforced and made even more draconian if we faced threats from outer space and hostile aliens, right? If we don't have a cooperative multicultural leadership, ET will prevail. Now, it's not exactly the most thought-provoking article, but it is interesting in the sense that it does keep repeating itself, and how you kind of brainwash and control somebody's mind is by keep repeating the same thing. And what we've seen in this article is just paragraph after paragraph of repetition of the same narrative about we need a multicultural organization, we need a cooperative multicultural leadership, we are in moral peril, yada yada whoop de woo. But there are more articles, further paragraphs to this article, but you get the kind of general picture of what they are suggesting, that we need some kind of global organization in order to coordinate plans and protocols against a possible posed threat from aliens. So with that being said, let's leave this article and head over to the next one. Okay, so here's an article from July the 21st, within the last couple of days, about a near-Earth collision from an asteroid. It's going to come 300 miles, within 300 miles of Earth in November, around the time of the presidential election, nonetheless. So let's go and look a little bit in this article. Don't know what this little lady is chatting about there. But anyway, CBS Detroit. There's a video on YouTube, and there's lots of videos on YouTube, not just one. This is actually a video on YouTube that you're probably watching right now. But anyway, there is a video on YouTube saying we are about to have another very close encounter with an asteroid. What the Jet Propulsion Lab in California calls near-Earth objects, or NEOs. Now, keep in mind, asteroids have been coming close and have hit our planet for millions of years, and it may do daily. The bulk of asteroids and debris in space, as you may remember from science class, get burned up in the atmosphere, caused by the friction from the air as objects hit the atmosphere going thousands of miles an hour. However, one YouTube video says an asteroid called 2018 VP1, maybe Pandemic 1, I don't know what you could use for the V, which is about 6 feet diameter, will pass within 300 miles. Now, 6 feet in the diameter doesn't sound very big, but if it did hit Earth, that could possibly cause quite a little bit of devastation, maybe not total devastation or extinction level devastation, but devastation nonetheless. But it's going to pass about 300 miles from our planet on November the 2nd, 2020. So there would be 222, 11, 11. I don't know if those of you who are into numerology or maybe even gematria might be able to figure something out there. However, some experts are saying this is nothing to fear. First off, there is math. The math. Asteroid 2018 VP1 is projected to come 0.02 times the distance between the Earth and the Moon. Given that the Moon is 2,039 that many miles away, you do the reading if you want. 239 million miles away, 0.02 equates to 4,000.78 miles. Now you think that's far off, right? What's the big deal? Well, then compute this stuff going through the orbital mechanics. They use the center of the celestial body, in this case the Earth. The Earth is 7.9.17 miles across, and half of that is 3,958 miles. This is where the video currently gets, or correctly gets, the 300-mile estimate from a drive of a metro. It's the estimate of a drive from Metro Detroit to Sault Ste. Marie in the up. To put it into perspective, that's too long to play. We're not going to watch 8 minutes and 18 seconds of that. But anyway, in a recent article to MLive, astronomer Mike Murray says this: while it is close, it is not as bad as it seems. JPL assigns a confidence number or condition code to NEOs, near Earth objects, from 0 to 9, 0 being very duck and cover, confident, and 9 being very uncertain. Asteroid 2018 VP1 scores a 7, which means the projected forecast is uncertain. Part of that is because in 2018, when they observed this for 21 days, it only formed a partial orbital arc for 13 days. Murray says that even if this rock were to hit a bullseye on Earth, it's only 6 feet across. It would be 20 times larger. It would need to be 20 times larger to damage a city. On February 15, 2013, the Chiles, that place, entered an Earth, media entered the Earth's atmosphere over Russia. I can actually remember seeing those videos circulating at the time over the southern Ural region. This asteroid was 11 times larger than 2018 VP1 at 66 feet across. Interesting, 66 was used there, and was shared on social media everywhere. It appeared brighter than the sun and was visible up to 62 miles away. The Chelyabinsk media exploded about 97,000 feet in the air with a force of 400 to 500 kilotons of TNT, or 26 to 30 times 33 is used. 66, 33. Interesting numerology being used in this article. The energy of the little boy atomic bomb that was dropped on Hiroshima. The atmosphere absorbed most of that blast, and people were injured from broken windows from nearby buildings. It ended up exploding in the air and burst into many pieces. 2018 VP1 will probably break apart or explode like that one. The Chelyabinsk. Fuck, why do they have to use such difficult words? Most of that will impact Earth. Most that will do is impact the Earth. I don't know if I'm reading that right. Sorry. It's that weird word that kind of got me kerfuffled. So for now, experts and the video makes a point that we're safe, as we don't know all the facts on this asteroid. But as VP1 2018 gets closer, hopefully astronomers will be able to acquire it to make its more measurements and know for certain of the orbit. So that's one example of an asteroid, and as we said, could Project Bluebeam be used to create holographic asteroids or comets that could then be used to strike the Earth, and with bombs and missiles or other kind of ordnance to create explosives, simulate the strike on the Earth level? Once we've seen the holographic imagery in the air above, then they could, you know what I'm saying, target off explosives, or using remote detonators, or even hide the ordnance itself within fabricated comets in missiles. But again, is this one of those little bit of seeding articles to just get us used to the idea that there is a possibility of asteroids and comets that could cause calamity to Earth? And is this why we need a weaponized space force to protect us from such threats, not just extraterrestrials with technology that is far greater and advanced than that we have with the regular military here on Earth? And we need some kind of global singular organization to take care and protect us in these eventualities. So let's just look at one more article with regards to asteroids and comments before we do move on. Okie dokie, guys, so this was the comment I was referring to earlier, Neo-wise, and I don't know if anyone else other than me, you can kind of see NWO one. There's one, you can make one wise, New World Order, SWI, I don't know, but maybe those with gematria and anagram skills might be able to make something of that. But right off the bat, it's not impossible to see the N, the W, and the O, and see that you can make the word new, and there would be an O, new order. Figure it out for yourself. Maybe there's some other stuff going on there. Maybe have a little think about that and put your ideas and thoughts in the comments. What Neo-wise could be an acronym of, or an anagram of, or maybe run it through some gematria. But as you can see, at the time of recording, 2 hours ago, 6 hours ago, 21 hours ago, everything is up in this comet Neo-wise that is above the skies at the moment. And here we go, two couples include a rare Neo-wise comment in their proposal, once in a lifetime. So again, this Neo-wise is common knowledge, mainstream. They're using people as examples, how they're doing it, how you can see it. 10 big questions and answers about our icy wanderer. That was a day ago, 16 hours ago. And this is just page one. There are pages and pages and pages of stuff on this Neo-wise, and there you go, SpaceX, near Elon Musk, got to get him in on the Neo-wise comet, and they're making a big deal. Cape Canaveral, there you are, NASA location being dragged in on this. So is comet Neo-wise an actual real comet? Is it a projection that is being used with Bluebeam technology? Is it part and parcel of the seeding of what is yet to come? 2 hours, as I said, everything very contemporary. They're trying to keep this, and yesterday when I looked at this again, there were lots and lots of articles about Neo-wise in and around the world. Neo-wise, what did that one say? How a hibernating satellite awoke to discover the comet, and that was 5 hours ago. Time out, a time lapse of the comet taken by NASA will tickle your senses. So they really want you to know about Neo-wise and this comet that is going up. Best time to see it. Don't miss out. You've got to see it. Now, something very interesting to point out at this point, a little bit of fiction, maybe some fiction decoded, thrown into the mix here, maybe even a teaser for a future episode for you. Day of the Triffids. Don't know if you're familiar with that novelization. William Mason, we've already mentioned you in this video, someone who's been giving me a lot of information and commentary in live shows when we have mentioned Project Bluebeam in a staged alien event. But anyway, William Mason is the name of the main protagonist in The Day of the Triffids. And Day of the Triffids was very, very interesting because there was, at the beginning of the book, the start of the book, there was a huge, huge meteor shower that was going on in the skies above Earth. And everybody was encouraged to go out and witness this spectacle. And once they woke up the next morning, humanity was blind. They could no longer see. Humanity had been blinded. They couldn't see anything. They were just wandering around aimlessly, waiting to die. And also became, when they died, the Triffids then kind of snuck up and creeped up on them and sucked the life force from the humans. That's how the Triffids stayed alive. They ate the humans. But William Mason was unfortunate in the sense that in the fiction he was in hospital getting some treatment on his eyes and had his eyes covered, so he didn't get to see the meteor showers that were going overhead in the sky, and thus remained his sight and became a little bit of a leader within the fiction of Day of the Triffids. But again, that might be a video for another day, which we will talk more about then. But back to Neowise. Let's pick the first one because that was 2 hours ago. This is from WGRZ. And they're on your side. Let's see what they got to say about Neowise. There's some pictures of it there. I think you can see it overhead. Spectacle of science. Possibly, yeah, I guess it could be a spectacle of science, but holograms and projections are also spectacles of science, right? So very interesting that they use it there. I mean, you might kind of like, it's a natural, is it a natural comment? That's what I'm saying. It could be spectacle of nature or spectacle of the cosmos, but they use spectacle of science. Maybe that is plausible deniability for you. But anyway, Comet Neowise provides a rare imaging opportunity. New study reveals new imagery of, and again, they use new imagery, not new images. In imagery, you know what I'm saying? That could be something that used to describe holographic imagery, if you feel me. Again, plausible deniability. As it raced towards the sun. So in Buffalo, New York, not only did Neowise provide a spectacle for sky watchers across the northern hemisphere, scientists used this opportunity to further examine the chemical makeup and behavior of the centuries-old comet. Neowise could be the oldest, brightest comets in our solar system. It began the approach to the sun with its orbit, elliptical, is that how you pronounce it? Orbit, for the first time in over 4,500 years. The comet was first discovered in March 27 by NASA Near Earth Object Wide Field Infrared Survey Explorer, NEOWFISE. Interesting. Hence its name acronym. Oh, that's what Neowise is short for, right? Okay, that's what it's short for. And the comet won't be visible in Earth for another 6,800 years. So several fields use this opportunity to study these space giants. A recent study funded by the National Science Foundation, scientists Jeffrey Morgan Tyler and Kyle Schmidt used satellite imagery to capture Neowise to study its chemical makeup, especially its tail. Is that spelling mistake? I don't know, that's kind of stumped me in. Only the largest comets in our solar system can produce such visible dust tails they create when frozen particles trapped in the ice on the comet change from a solid to gas, sublimitation from the heat of the sun. These gas particles then get dragged behind the comet and creating the tail in its gravitational pull. In their study, that's Morgan, Tyler, and Schmidt, they use satellite imagery to decipher the chemical makeup of Neowise's tail, and the image on the left is a composite of all cometary dust that reflects light. The image on the right shows light only emitted by sodium ions. This means Neowise's tail is primarily made up of sodium ions. And those are the pictures they were referring to, if that means anything to you. The importance of this discovery of a sodium tail is crucial. Our biggest comets in the solar system have tails and are rarely seen. Plus, it allows scientists to further examine what chemical reactions and processes that could be occurring near the surface of the comet. This could lead to discoveries of understanding of a comet's speed, trajectory, lifespan, and creation. They now plan to use these images of Neowise to computer model the comet's tail. It's likely that the next several months or even years, new studies will be published after Neowise streaked across the sky. And here's NASA telling you some hints and tips to catch comet Neowise before it disappears for another 6,800 years. Find a spot away from the lights just after sunset. Look below the Big Dipper in the northwest sky. Bring binoculars and telescopes. So there we go. That's about wildlife. Goats grazing. I won't see the goats, but that's Neowise. And as we said, guys, there's lots and lots and lots and lots of articles about this Neowise comet, and they really are making a big deal about it and want us all to see it. And if not, they're going to end up weaponizing Neowise just like they weaponized coronavirus pathogens in order to enslave us and remove freedoms and liberties as they do implement their draconian one world measures and lead us towards a new world order. Are they doing the same or with these seedings and implantations of thoughts and ideas that we are under some kind of threat from either asteroids or aliens? So let's just look at one more thing before we return to the studio and wrap up this latest edition of Project Bluebeam COVID cover-up series. All right, so a little while ago, over Tokyo, Japan, this weird white blob was recorded and reported on various platforms and media outlets, and it was that's what it looked like, this kind of strange white blob. Was it a weather balloon? Was it a UFO? But lots of videos and stuff was around on this, and at the time I did capture some video for you that is now lost on the now defunct and destroyed thrift phone. Twitter. A day later, the balloon-like UFO still remains a mystery as its origin still can't be determined. But let's just have a little look at what this one had to say, because there's actually a couple of things that was peculiar over Japan around the same time, one of which was this kind of weather balloon blob thing that appeared over Tokyo, and another's a cloud we'll just look at before we do wrap this up. People in Japan were left stunned and confused after a mysterious balloon-like object was spotted floating in the sky above northern Japan on Wednesday morning. According to the Japan Meteorological Agency, calls about a mysterious floating object began around 7 a.m. in the morning. Pictures and videos of the unidentified white object in the sky quickly went viral online and set social media ablaze with speculations ranging from being a UFO to North Korean propaganda. One user speculated UFO sighting in Japan, the appearance of a mysterious balloon-like object across the sky in Japan city of Sendai on Wednesday set social media ablaze with speculation from UFOs to coronaviruses. Officials said spreading novel coronavirus gives a bad alert. The balloon-like object in the sky pictured above Sendai, there it is. there. UFO or weather machine, a balloon-like white object in the sky is pictured. So weather machine is very interesting. Mysterious UFOs captures the imaginations in Japan. It's hardly the stuff of little green men, but a mysterious balloon-like object. And I just said many pictures of this balloon object, as you can see. Many also thought it was a science experiment or weather balloon. The appearance of a mysterious white object over the sky in northern Japan sets social media ablaze. Let's have a little look at this video. Interesting. So there's a few little glimpses and pictures and some video footage of what this little balloon thing was. However, a day later, the balloon-like UFO still remains a mystery and its origin can't be determined. The Meteorological Agency office confirmed that it was not flown by the agency, and neither local government nor local self-defenses knew what the force was. It's not something flown. Okay, this repeating themselves. Then sometimes when they repeat them, it's because they want you to kind of believe what you're hearing more and more. So that was one little incident over Japan that was particularly interesting, this white weather balloon thing that they saw floating around in the sky. And we will look almost instantly at the next one. Okay, my apologies, it was China, not Japan, but this was something that was seen just a couple of days ago. UFO sighting or top military spaceship. Strange craft seen in China. Conspiracy theorists in China believe they have spotted evidence of a UFO which either comes from aliens or is a top secret military craft. There is a video we will look at before we end this, but let's read on further. A strange object, which is, this is where it's interesting, is vaguely in the shape of a sheep, and sheep or sheeple is something that we are using in reference to maybe individuals that take too many blue pills, should we say, for want of a better description. But anyway, leading to some rather out there conspiracies, the object, which is clearly too rigid to be considered a cloud, was seen in an unknown location and put online. The signing, which seems to say exactly in place, has been considered an alien spaceship or a top secret military craft. Prominent conspiracy theorist Scott C. Waring wrote on his blog ET Database, the eyewitnesses were driving along the road when they noticed a strange object hovering above the distant hill. The man panics and says, "That looks like a UFO. It's a UFO." He goes on to say it's not a cloud but hovering in place. It hovered there for half an hour. He says the white object had what looked like wings and that maybe it was some kind of equipment like a blimp, but didn't look like any balloon he had ever seen. Absolutely amazing video, and this object in the sky is definitely not a blimp or balloon. This looks like an alien craft to me, and I guess that's a close-up of it there. But if it could be a secret military craft, but it could be a secret military craft. If this is a military craft, then it is important to keep the eyewitnesses' identity hidden. China would seek revenge on them, but the way it's hovering over the hill is like it just exited the hilltop. So maybe, you know, there's a hidden base in the hilltop and they using this craft or giving it a dummy run or testing it out. While the existence of aliens has never been confirmed, the US Department of Defense has recently acknowledged a video from a US Navy pilot's radar footage of a UFO as what do they have? Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. I got lost my train of thought there. The US Navy pilot's radar footage of a mystery UFO with a glowing aura and flying erratically. The video first circulated in 2017, but took the DoD 3 years to acknowledge the existence. That's the one that they're talking about, the the NASA declassification. Life on Mars. Alien expert spots statues of human heads on the red planet. And again, War of the Worlds. That's where the alien invasion come from Mars. But according to the Pentagon spokeswoman Sue Goff, the sightings was released in order to clear up any misconceptions by the public on whether or not the footage has been circulated and was real, or whether there is more to the videos. She said, after thorough review, the department has determined that authorized release of these unclassified videos does not reveal any sensitive capabilities or systems and does not impinge on any subsequent investigations of military airspace incursions by unidentified aerial phenomenon. When the 2017 footage emerged, a former Pentagon employee, Luis Elizondo, who might head up a secret official UFO program, said it was compelling evidence we might not be alone in the universe. Mr. Elizondo said, these aircraft, we call them aircraft, are displaying characteristics that are not currently within the US inventory nor in any foreign inventory that we are aware of. And that is the important part there, that we are aware of. So there might be some highly classified technology and aircraft we are not aware of that are being used by the military that aren't on the end of inventory, just like the stealth bomber that was in circulation and flying overhead for 30 years before it was declassified. Things that don't have any obvious flight services or obvious forms of propulsion and maneuvering in ways that include extreme maneuverability beyond, I would submit, healthy G-forces of a human or anything biological. So that was popular in the community. Should we see if we can play the video? And it's only 50 seconds long, so if it does indeed play, we will wrap this little
我用肉眼现在看，哇，好漂亮！如果有银，我在路上拍到了不明飞行物啊！我现在在福建漳州啊，这边你们看一下，这个天上的这个，刚开始我以为是个云朵，但是你们看它像一个羊。但是他一直在那儿停了将近半个小时了，现在还在那边。云朵最少前天有。应该不是云朵了，对，应该不是云朵，应该是一个仪器了啊！我这个相机拍的不是很高清，但是我用肉眼现在看很高清的，就像一个像一个仪器，两边2个翅膀，然后中间一个像个热气球。哇，这东西太神奇了，不明飞行物啊，不明飞行物。来，有没有专家，有没有老铁给咱解释一下，这到底是啥东西啊？我来远看一下。
So anyway, guys, that does conclude today's episode. Not what we're doing here, different little look at me signing out on the end of this video. A little treat, get away from the hands maybe in the Thrift Fam, Thrift Store studio. But anyway, as I was saying, that does conclude the latest series in Project Bluebeam. Whether or not I do this little outro thing at the end of all my videos, I don't know. Let me know if you like it or not in the comments below. But some interesting stuff to get your head into, get some thoughts of your own, and maybe do a little bit more further researching yourself into what is going on with the skies above. Are we getting ready to see a staged psychological operation, false flag, alien or asteroid event? So all that really remains to be saying for this episode is thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope it posed some thoughts and ideas of your own for further research. Be sure to hit the like button if you did enjoy it. If you feel like sharing it on your social media, go ahead. That would help support this channel. Maybe get a few more people over to the thrift store, maybe watching some more of my videos. But for now, thanks for watching. This was a shit video production. I'm the Thrift Store Prepper. This was TSP TV, and we will see you in another one. Until then, be excellent to each other and keep it thrifty. See you soon, guys.